Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you all for coming along this afternoon. It was in January 2020 that I was asked by Lord Lyon if I would take on the project of cataloguing the Lyon Office Seal collection. The following month, in February 2020, I discussed the practical aspects with Lyon Clark, and given my commitments at that time, I said, I'll start working on the collection towards the end of March 2020. And then the world shut down. New Register House wasn't reopened until March 2022, and then I finally started work on the collection. So that's what I've been doing for the past 2 years. So, can we begin with a bit of background first? There are 3 major collections of seals in Scotland. One is held by Lyon Office, one's held by National Museum Scotland, and the third by National Records of Scotland. Now, to go back a bit further yet and discuss the history of cataloguing seals in Scotland. This goes back effectively to the beginning of the 18th century, when James Anderson published his volume Selectus Diplomatum et Numismatum Scotiae Thesaurus, a storehouse of selected documents and Scottish numismatics. This volume contained descriptions of 55 seals. Later in the 18th century, we had Thomas Assel. Some of you will remember the lecture given last year by Rachel Davis when she talked about borough seals, which were listed by Thomas Assel. Now, Thomas Assel's work, an account of the seals of the King's Royal Boroughs and Magnates of Scotland, published in 1792 and then reprinted 4 years later in Vetusta Monumenta. Assel was a curator at the British Museum, and his account contained descriptions of 75 seals. The next main event was Lieutenant General George Henry Hutton, a professional soldier who had a hobby of collecting transcripts and monastic documents. He also made a collection of copies of seals, and he wrote 2 volumes of notes about seals. The seals are held today by National Museum Scotland, and his manuscript notes are held by the National Records of Scotland. This collection is quite extensive, but being unpublished remains a relatively unknown source. Things really took off in the middle of the 19th century when Henry Ling published his 2 catalogues of Scottish seals, one in 1850 and the second supplementary catalogue in 1866. The supplementary catalogue is exactly that. It's a supplement. It's not repeating anything from the first volume. So between them, we're looking at a record of over 2,500 seals. Slightly later in the 19th century, Walter de Grey Birch, who worked in the British Museum Department of Manuscripts for nearly 40 years, he did a study of the seals in the British Museum, and he published a monumental 6-volume catalogue. Volume 4, published in 1895, covered Scottish seals. He's also known for his 2-volume History of Scottish Seals, which he wrote after he retired from the British Museum. Almost contemporaneously with Birch was William Ray MacDonald. Carrick Pursuivant, 1898 to 1902, and then Albany Herald, 1909-23. He amassed a huge collection of gutta-percha copies of seals. And from his collection, he published in 1904 Scottish Armorial Seals. MacDonald died in 1923, having not completed the work that he intended to do on the seals. And his colleague, John Horne Stevenson, Unicorn Pursuivant and then Marchmont Herald 25 to 39, he took on MacDonald's work of working through the Lyon Office Seal collection. He was assisted by his cousin, Margaret Wood, who was the keeper of manuscripts at Edinburgh City. However, before they could complete the work on seals that they intended to do, Stevenson died in January 1939. Later that year, the Second World War broke out, and Margaret Wood did the best she could to put together the manuscripts that the two of them had put together. And in 1940, she had published Scottish Heraldic Seals. Given that it came out in wartime, given the problems with funding, only 38 copies were ever printed. 30 of these copies went to libraries, only 8 went to private individuals. This is the book which today is the bedrock for studies of Scottish seals. It's a 3-volume book, first volume public seals and 2 volumes of personal seals. Can I just do a quick show of hands? How many people present here have actually ever had a copy of this in their hands looking at? Not many. So, that's the background to studies of Scottish seals. Turning now to the Lyon Office Seal collection itself. For many years, it was housed in this plan chest, which was kept in Lyon Clark's office. In 2022, modern metal cabinets with drawers were required by Lyon Office to rehouse the seals. Brought up from the basement of New Register House were 2 wooden cabinets which housed the large seals of the collection. So the material in those metal cabinets, plus those 2 wooden cabinets, that's what I've been working on over the last 2 years and producing a catalogue. So, what does MacDonald's collection consist of? Well, the royal seals, we've got Great Seals, Privy Seals, Signets, Seals of the Queen Consort, Seals of the Prince of Scotland. We have officers of government and courts. Down at the bottom, coquette seals. These are the seals of the customs officers. You learn something new every day. Boroughs, royal companies, Edinburgh medical colleges, Masonic seals, ecclesiastical seals ranging through the dioceses, glaciate churches, universities, religious houses, the friars. And personal seals from the 13th century to the 18th century. Now, what do you actually see when you look at the seals? The great thing about MacDonald's collection is there's information on the back of them. This one, seal for Duncan II. It tells you the source of the seal. So it's here, Durham, circa 1096. This is a seal from the Durham Cathedral Archives, today administered by the University of Durham. You also see this, L1.1. That is a reference to Lane, Volume 1, the 1850 volume, and it's seal number 1 in that volume. You also get the British Museum catalogue from Birch's catalogue. Equally, looking at the seal for Banff Borough, its source is the Hutton collection. There you see L2 1200, Laying, second volume, seal number 1200, and again the British Museum catalogue number. So the thing is that with MacDonald's collection, you can go back to the source, you can find where the seal came from. You're not left with the seal just on its own. You've got the history behind it. So let's do a quick romp through what the collection looks like. There we have the seal of Duncan II, which you've just seen the reverse of. And that is the oldest seal in the Lyon Office collection. There the seal for Alexander II, and it's the earliest royal seal to show the lion rampant. You also see the lion rampant there on the saddle cloth. There's a kind of a lined border to the saddle cloth, which some people say, ooh, that's got to be a double tressure. Well, there's been argument for years about that. The Great Seal of James VI, again keeping to the equestrian style on obverse and royal arms on reverse. The seal of Edward VII is one of the latest seals in the collection. We do actually have seals going up to George V. No more equestrian, but simply the king sitting in majesty, but with the Scottish version of the royal arms on the reverse. Privy Seal, James I. The signet of Francis and Mary, and you notice that Francis appears on the dexter side, Mary on the sinister side. And that seal is actually a reminder that Scotland very nearly became a province of France, had Francis not met with an accident. The seal of a Queen consort, Anne of Denmark, the Queen of James VI. And there have been quite a few royal spouses from Scandinavia over the years. James III's Queen was Danish, James VI's Queen was Danish, and Queen Anne's husband was Danish, and the wife of Edward VII. There's even seals for the Lyon Office. So there we have the original seal from 1673, and the seal for James William Mitchell, Rothesay Herald, and Lyon Clark. Now, that's what the Coquette seal looks like. The Customs Office of Inverkeithing. Borough seals, well, there's band from the 15th century, Kirkwall from the 18th century. Ecclesiastical seals, and there we see two episcopal seals. The seal of Gavin Dunbar represents more the sort of medieval style with his arms at the bottom. That of James Ramsay, a more later style, which is simply the mitre over the shield. And that coat of arms is one of the earliest recorded in Lyon Register, 1672-73. Arthur Rose, Archbishop of St Andrews, contemporary with James Ramsay. A more medieval style than James Ramsay's, with St Andrew and his cross, and with Arthur Rose's arms below. I've shown the reverse this time because you see at the top there, Antiquaries, NM 106. The Society of Antiquaries, founded in the 18th century, started amassing a museum collection very soon. Then in 1859, the Society of Antiquaries managed to establish the National Museum of Antiquities at the Royal Institution in Princes Street. That's the building that's now the Royal Scottish Academy. And then in 1891, moved to the new National Museum of Antiquities of Scotland in Queen Street, sharing the building with the Portrait Gallery. The museum was still run by the Society of Antiquaries until 1954, and only then was its operation taken over by the government. Then in 1985, the National Museum of Antiquities was merged with the Royal Scottish Museum in Chambers Street to form National Museum Scotland. So this refers to Society of Antiquaries Museum / National Museum of Antiquities. And this particular seal was lent to the Society by the Scottish Episcopal Church in the 1860s. Prior to that date, these seals had been held at Glenalmond Theological College. Just to give you more idea of the look of medieval ecclesiastical seals, the chapter of Dunbar Collegiate Church, you see there the arms of the Dunbar, Earls of Dunbar, who were the patrons of Dunbar Collegiate Church. Abbey seals, the one for Arbroath Abbey, that was Arbroath Abbey was founded by William I, shortly after the martyrdom of St Thomas à Becket at Canterbury Cathedral. And so the Abbey seal shows the martyrdom of St Thomas, to whom Arbroath Abbey was dedicated. Cuperangus Abbey, the arms shown, the royal arms, and the Hay arms, who were the patrons of Cuperangus Abbey. The seal for St Giles Collegiate Church has the earliest representation of the borough arms of Edinburgh. It might seem curious that university seals are classed as ecclesiastical, but you have to bear in mind that the principals of the four ancient Scottish universities were always clerics until the 19th century. Turning now to personal seals, the earliest large selection of personal seals comes from the Ragman Roll in 1296, when a large number of Scottish nobles and lairds were forced to pledge allegiance to Edward I. And these are two of the seals that appeared. Not so much heraldry at that time. You were getting either floral designs like that, or animalistic designs. That's a squirrel, by the way. Then in the 15th century, we get the couché style of arms, the shield slanted sideways. '17th century nobles. Now, there was a talk last year, I think it was given by Elizabeth Rhodes, and somebody asked a question about, was that a mason's mark on his seal? No, merchant marks. The Borgias merchants used seals with geometrical designs such as these. Sometimes shown on a shield, sometimes simply shown medallion style. Now, something that you will have noticed by now about these images of seals from the Lyon collection. Not all of them are lovely and crisp and crystal clear. Some of them were a bit sort of vague, a bit sort of flattened, a bit sort of yes, the seal of Cuthbert Cunningham in 1598. Somewhere, surely, there is a shake fork. The more sceptical among you might be saying, how do I know that's Cuthbert Cunningham anyway? Well, the answer is, I don't. But MacDonald did. So MacDonald presumably found a document signed by Cuthbert Cunningham with a seal on it. Well, it's bound to be Cuthbert Cunningham's seal. And yes, I will agree. This is an example of what gives seals a bad name. What says seals are difficult. So, a couple of months ago, I came to the end of cataloguing those seals in the metal cabinets and in those two large wooden drawers. And Lyon Office, for the first time in its history, has a catalogue of its seals. It's only over 600 pages long. What's in those metal cabinets and in those two wooden cabinets is not all there is. Here in Lord Lyon's office, there is this cabinet. Lots of drawers and as you can see, more seals. Although you see, rather than the sort of gutta percha style of MacDonald's collection, which these are, there are other seals in red wax. Now these are genuinely unidentified, so far. Also in this cabinet are several seal matrices from various boroughs. Lyon Office itself doesn't have information about where they're from, but I suspect that these borough seal matrices came into Lyon Office after Innes of Learney had made an onslaught on the boroughs in the 1920s and 1930s to get them to record arms, and the old seal matrices were handed to him because they could no longer be used. Go down to the basement, and there's even more. There's this large cabinet with Glasgow on it. And you open up the cabinet, and there's bags and bags and bags of seals. This is MacDonald collection as well, and I rather suspect that this was a whole load of copy seal impressions made for the 1911 Glasgow Heraldry exhibition. I opened up one bag and had a look through it, and as far as I could tell from a very quick skimming through, what was in that bag anyway were duplicates of what was upstairs in the metal cabinets. But this is a project to be gone through. Still down in the basement, over in the corner, more and more and more. And you can see it's drawer after drawer. Well, this is where I've been working the last couple of months. This drawer, there's a mixture of unidentified Scottish seals, there's foreign seals, there's English seals. Of that one drawer of unidentified Scottish seals, 1/3 I have identified and merged with the main collection. The rest I've had to put aside. We'll worry about that after. There has been one interesting item that did come up. Now, as I say, the great thing about MacDonald is he does provide information as to where it is, even if he doesn't provide an identification. So here we have something from the Earl Charters, 1st of March, 1586-7. So, what do we have? Well, it's a bit flat, especially around the bottom and up there. It's an ornamental shield with an earl's coronet. It's parted per pale. So we're looking at husband and wife. The exercise, we can see two escutcheons very clearly. They can just about, with the eye of faith, make out a third escutcheon down there. So 3 escutcheons, we're looking at hay, surely. Well, it is Earl Charters after all, so hay, Earl of Errol. The sinister side, the wife's side, what have we got? Well, it's quarterly to start off with. We've got what looks like a lymphad in the first quarter, line rampant in the second quarter, line rampant third quarter, fourth quarter, well, your guess is as good as mine, but if it's repeating quarters, you could just about say that looks like the rigging of a lymphad there on that side. Between the quarters, though, we're not looking at straight partition lines. They're a bit sort of ragged. Are we looking at a cross engrailed, dividing the quarters? Now, if you've got a cross engrailed, dividing quarters, you start thinking, is that a hint of Sinclair? Well, right enough. Sinclair, Earl of Caithness. First and fourth Olympad, second and third Lyon Rampad, quarters divided by a crossing grailed. So are we looking at a daughter of an Earl of Sinclair, the Earl of Caithness? Well, we do have a date. Was there an Earl of Errol that married the daughter of the Earl of Caithness? Yes, there was. Andrew Hay, 8th Earl of Errol, married Agnes Sinclair, daughter of George Sinclair, 4th Earl of Caithness. Well, looking at now we're starting to look at the letters. E, A, and are we looking at an H there? Errol, Andrew, Hay, Agnes, and is that an S? Does anybody disagree with me? So, that's my identification of that. MacDonald, for some reason, did not identify this seal. Not only that, this seal does not, as far as I am aware, appear in the literature anywhere. It is not in Stevenson Wood, it is not in MacDonald's Scottish Armorial Seals, it is not in Laing's catalogues. And you are the first audience to hear about this seal. How much more is there like this in the Lyon Office Seal collection in the uncatalogued stuff? Well, watch this space. So that completes what I have to say at this point about the Lyon Office Seal collection. I'm very grateful to staff at Lyon Office for the assistance they've given me in working through the collection, and to staff at National Museum Scotland. And I'll answer any questions you may have to ask. Thank you.